Is Ben & Jerry's questioning the imbalance of the cannabis industry? Will retail survive vulture capitalists? Is Game of Thrones leading us into the new era of television? We'll tackle all this and more at the intersection of business and culture, Disruptive FM. Roll the title.
It's Disruptive FM. Disruptive FM. Disruptive FM. Disruptive FM. Welcome to Disruptive FM, where business and culture collide. Sponsored by Microsoft and Branding Strategy Insider. With your host, Geoffrey Cologne.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Hope you're having a great week. Welcome to Disruptive FM, episode 42, for the week ending Friday, April the 19th. I'm Geoffrey Cologne, your host for the next quarter hour, as we check out the latest news in marketing, tech, media, and popular culture. Let's get started.
Here are this week's trending topics. Ben, Jerry, and Mary Jane.
It's 420 when you're listening to this, or a few days after, and that means a celebration of marijuana, ganja, Mary Jane. But for some, it's a call out to the fact the legal cannabis industry is owned and operated by a bunch of rich white people who will never see the inside of a jail cell unless it's on a trip to Alcatraz for a tour. This realization has led Ben & Jerry's, yes, Ben & Jerry's, the ice cream company, to issue the following tweet on 420 that said, quote, "It's hard to celebrate 420 when so many people of color are still being arrested for pot. We have to do better." The tweet got over 140,000 retweets and 300,000 likes. And it made us think, why is an ice cream brand like Ben & Jerry's talking about this? Well, the brand has always been political. And now with cannabis going the way of most corporate capitalism, maybe they are using their influence to question laws on the books that still unfairly penalize certain citizens in the United States. This recent move comes 1 year from a big presidential election with a candidate, Bernie Sanders, running for the highest office in the land, who also happens to hail from the same green state of Vermont, like Ben & Jerry. Was this a once-and-done cherry-on-top move, or a precursor of more surprise and delights to come?
Trending topics on DFM. Retail reinvented.
Retail is in trouble, but not for the reasons we think. Many analysts point to Amazon as the reason for the retail apocalypse, but most retailers are dying not because of a lack of digital toys, but because of vulture capitalism. Sears, Toys R Us, Gymboree, Payless Shoes all have in common the fact that they are poorly managed. Why? Well, simple reasons. They take out loads of debt and they can't pay it back. Take Sears, which saw big pressure as discounter Walmart rose to power in the 1990s. Sears joined up with Kmart in 2005 under an $11 billion deal spearheaded by venture capitalist Eddie Lampert. Mired in a retail slump, Sears had long fallen out of favor on Wall Street after losing ground to competitors and enduring sluggish sales for years. Something that applies to the situation at Sears a decade later. Fiscal 2006 revenue for the newly combined Sears and Kmart was over $53 billion. Yet now, Sears will finish this fiscal year with about $22 billion in sales. Less than half that figure. Part of the problem was that Sears commoditized goods were easily comparison shopped online. But the retailer also suffered from changing consumer tastes and the value added by a brand. Yes, folks, brands still matter. Sears used to have flagship in-house brands that included Kenmore appliances and Craftsman tools. But the brands have failed to retain relevancy over time. Other brands with actual value, like Land's End, have already been sold off to leave the parent company alone to twist in the wind. Should we really be surprised that customers have fled with scenarios like this?
Trending topics on DFM. Game Over the Thrones.
So many over-the-top streaming services and so little time. OTT is going to be massive, probably uproot cable as we know it. In fact, that's already happening. But it has a bigger problem now. it can't expect to compete in a world where consumers don't want to pay for all these services. Furthermore, many don't have the game-changing content that platforms like HBO have with Game of Thrones. To us at DFM, GOT is the last of the old television model. It is the one show that is still a huge water cooler event, bigger than anything on traditional TV as of late. But that will not be replaced anytime soon because there's nothing in the pipeline as massive in influence as it. So what does this all mean in the streaming wars? Well, Jack Appleby, director of creative strategy at Midnight Oil in Los Angeles, pays a lot of attention to this space. Appleby joined us via Skype to talk about the war for the throne amongst OTT services. Here's a bit of that conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how this all evolves. I do think each company's offerings are going to be more different than we may realize, or even maybe how we're just going to consume all of that content. Like as we look at, you mentioned Netflix and Hulu. To me, Netflix is going to become almost the utility of all of those. Like the way we pay an electric or gas bill, like we just view Netflix that way at this point because their content library is just so vast. I don't anticipate any of these upcoming services to cause anyone to quit on Netflix. But there is going to be so much competition now as far as these new entrants go. Like you do have to wonder what it means for a Hulu or an HBO and how everyone's own content is going to play into that. It feels like the ranking system is going to become inevitable. Like we can already all imagine that editorial coming out as people rank the value of each of these services based on their shows and the price points and the family plans and everything you could possibly use to judge them. It's an old adage, but content's going to be king for all of this stuff. And I know we're all very, very tired of that phrase, but whoever's putting out the best stuff is going to drive the most value, with the exception, I think, of Netflix is going to be around forever as the biggest one. Like I think Disney's going to come in there swinging and it's going to see the most immediate growth out of everybody. But are we going to pay $70 to $100 for all of these streaming services on top of our $50 to $100 for our internet subscription fee? That seems really unlikely.
That was Jack Appleby, who joined us to talk about the OTT wars. To hear my full-length interview with Jack, check out our DFM bonus round on our Disruptive FM YouTube channel.
It's Disruptive FM
Communications,
the business culture podcast.
They say if you listen closely, you can hear the sound of today.
It's Disruptive FM, the culture of business. I'm Geoffrey Cologne, and as always, DFM is brought to you by Microsoft Advertising and Branding Strategy Insider. We're your friends. Connect with us on social media at Disruptive FM, both Twitter and Instagram. Connect with me personally on both Twitter and Instagram at DJGEOFFE. And for more in-depth analysis of some of these topics, check out bingads.ai and brandingstrategyinsider.com. DFM is also sponsored by iOgrapher, who can help you create better video. They make accessories for your smartphones and tablets, like better lenses and microphones, so you can make professional quality videos. Check out all their great products at iographer.com. In the background, music from Surund. It's a track called Moyo Mama and the Jimster Dub Mix, a really nice piece of Afro house. Out now on Beating Heart. You can listen to the whole track on Spotify. We'll include a link in the description for this episode.
And now, Disruptive FM presents...
What kind of shit is that?
Come on!
The next time you find yourself worried about the robot apocalypse, remember that after years of development, robots still can't fold our laundry. For the past few years at the Consumer Electronics Showcase in Las Vegas, the Seven Dreamers booth has always managed to draw a large crowd for demos of its laundry folding robot called, get this, the Laundroid. And why shouldn't it? An automaton that saves you from one of the most monotonous household chores. It sounds too good to be true, and it apparently was, as the company filed for bankruptcy recently in Japan. Robots have traditionally had a hard time breaking into domestic servitude. They can effectively vacuum floors, mop tiles, and even mow the lawn, but tend to fare poorly for other tasks, like home security or simple companionship. Seven Dreamers made quite a few lofty promises about the capabilities of its Landroid robot, which was about the size of a refrigerator, limiting who could actually have one in their home, especially in places like Japan where home sizes are a lot smaller. Using image recognition, artificial intelligence, and dexterous handling mechanisms, the Landroid was supposedly able to both fold and organize a pile of clean laundry, leaving you with pre-sorted piles you could just toss in a drawer. It all sounds like a killer product, but in reality, the machine struggled with folding even basic garments. As a result, Seven Dreamers managed to rack up a little over $20 million in debt owed to some 200 creditors, while it struggled to perfect the robot over the past few years. The cost of this robot, $1,000. Yes, $1,000 for a robot that can't even fold your underwear. Who wants an overpriced refrigerator-sized robot who can't work in their house? None of us. Just hire a real person to do this and pay them well to clean your house. If we think chores like this are on the path to automation, well, we've got another thing coming. As a result of this failed experiment, we have got to say,
what? Come on!
All right, time once again to take a look at some simmering stories we think you should keep an eye on. It's a segment called On the Radar.
Here's what's on our radar. Number 1.
A new Chinese challenger to Starbucks has filed to go public in the U.S. and list shares on the NASDAQ. Beijing-based Luckin Coffee plans to raise around $300 million in its initial public offering, with a valuation of around $2.9 billion. The young company aims to beat out Starbucks to have the most coffee shops in China by the end of this year. China's coffee market has become a vital battleground for the industry due to the country's increasingly affluent middle class and relatively low consumption of the beverage.
Number 2.
When do you know when you've become friends with a coworker? A good indicator might be when you can complain together. That's right. The ability to gossip or grumble about work with a coworker is a signal of comfort with each other that can be the beginning of a strong workplace friendship. However, some warn against workplace gossip and say excessive chatter among coworkers can lead to a deteriorating work culture.
Number 3.
Beverage companies are finding their footing by moving away from sugary carbonated beverages to other options, like water and calorie-free offerings. Pepsi reported better than expected earnings just this past week, and Coca-Cola also beat Wall Street estimates, thanks in part to consumers buying more of its water, sports drinks, and calorie-free beverages. Coca-Cola also said it will keep expanding its non-traditional offerings, with coffee-infused and energy drink versions of Coke. Similarly, Pepsi is launching juice-flavored options of its namesake product. Okay, that's going to wrap up another episode of DFM, number 42. We appreciate your time and attention, and we would appreciate it even more if you would rate, review, and subscribe to the show. We're on just about all your favorite podcast services. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spreaker, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and SoundCloud. Once again, the socials, Twitter and Instagram @DisruptiveFM is the handle. And read more in-depth content via our 3 sponsors, BingAds.ai, BrandingStrategyInsider.com, and iographer.com. Next week, we have Cheryl Barbie, our contributor at large, talking to us about consultancies acquiring creative shops. You don't want to miss it. Until then, for everyone here at DFM, thanks for checking in. I'm Geoffrey Cologne. Catch you next week.
You've been listening to Disruptive FM with Microsoft Communications designer Geoffrey Cologne. All thoughts are his own. Disruptive FM is produced in Los Angeles by Feeler Media.